Hey, it's Mr. Barnes, and in this video I'm going to talk about leisure at the international scale and specifically look at tourism. If we scroll down to Leisure 2, you'll notice that we're going to look at the long and short-term trends and patterns in international tourism. And so we can scroll down. This graph here is a pretty clear example of how things have changed throughout the years. And remember, always check your sources. So I'm going to highlight this here. You'll notice that the graph is from about 2008 because it says that everything after that is forecasted, and obviously we're into 2012, so it's much past that. But nonetheless, we can still gain a lot of really good information from this graph. And in general, the overall trend, I'll do the trend first because it's typically the easiest. The overall trend is that tourism is increasing over time. And not only is it increasing over time worldwide, but it's increasing within the regions too. And so the projections show that tourism is going to increase in nearly every region of the world. The pattern, the main pattern, well, there's a couple of main patterns. The first one you'll notice is that Europe owns the largest share of tourism. And this is because of pre-existing infrastructure. This is because of a long-standing tradition of tourism, many cultural and historical things to see and do in Europe. And so Europe remains one of the most visited locations on the planet for tourists. One thing that you'll notice here, another pattern, is that East Asia and the Pacific are growing the fastest. And so if you look at the overall growth of tourist arrivals, you'll notice that East Asia and the Pacific, the area within the chart here, let me highlight that a little bit better. The area within the chart here is going to widen faster, and so that would lead one to believe that the overall pattern is that East Asia and Pacific is going to increase more quicker than any of the other locations. Okay, so what are the reasons for these trends and patterns? The first, we can talk about the growing demand for tourism, increasing access through tour operators, and supply of destinations. But also, I'd like to add to that improvements in technology and also affluence, which we would have studied in the unit right before this one. So all those reasons would lead us to believe that, yes, in fact, these forecasts would be correct. So if you could fill that that little bit in underneath here about patterns and trends, you can take a look at that. And then we'll break this up. First thing we talked about is the long-term trends and patterns, but now we need to look a little bit more at the short-term trends and patterns. And basically the difference between long-term trends and patterns and short-term trends and patterns is the factors that would go into changing the trends and patterns. And so if we look at social, economic, political, and environmental factors, there's a couple of things that can happen. First of all, there can be a rise in tourism, so an increase in tourism. So for example, things like a new destination because of medical tourism becoming more popular there. So for example, we're going to look at South Korea becoming an increasingly popular medical tourism destination. So there's one example. How about over on the side here, you can see UNESCO sites being designated. So when the Banaue rice terraces were formally designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the tourism there increased threefold. And so you'll notice that UNESCO sites are increasingly more popular for tourists. So you'll see a sharp boost in those places. All right, then to break it up just a little bit, we'll look at rising demand as well as things that could cause a fall in tourism. And so if we scroll down here, you'll notice that it says a fall in tourism. What would cause tourism to decline in a certain place? And an obvious example of a reason why tourism would fall in a certain place would be political instability, or maybe terrorism, acts of terror, like the Bali bombings. What year was it? Shoot, now I gotta pull a year off the top of my head without knowing it exactly. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna guess. You can look it up. But if I had to guess, and please tell me in class if I'm wrong, I think the Bali bombings were, let's say 2003. That's just a wild guess. So I hope I'm close. But you can check out the rest of this unit here. Let me erase that. An easy way to answer this question: explain how certain factors cause immediate rise and fall in demand of tourism. Since it is 6 marks, you can go one of 2 strategies. So strategy number 1 is you can choose, let's say, three rises and 3 falls, and go into short detail for each of those. Or strategy 2, you could do 2 rises and 2 falls and go into medium detail. And then finally, strategy 3, which I don't recommend, because diversifying your answer, like having 3 factors or having 2 factors, is probably good. But if you were choking in the exam and needed to just think of one only, you could do 1 rise and 1 fall and go into great detail about those specific factors. And so in order to go into great detail, you'd need to have an example. First of all, you'd have to have a very good understanding of the topic, or the factor. Let me erase that. So you'd have to have a good understanding of the factor. You'd have to have an example, and then you'd have to have probably some numbers to back it up. Okay, so I hope this helps, and please, if you have any questions in class, don't hesitate to ask. Thanks.